Okay, so I hear you championing, it sounds like, reading in between the lines, like female leads, for instance. Is that one of the things that you're championing and that you're wanting to see more of, or
It's not so
at
much,
least be more accepted?
I mean, it's not so much female leads as it is as a leader specifically. It's more about the conversation in the dance, because there's so much that happens in the dance that's generally one-sided,
Yeah.
and the follower is expected to just kind of wait for her moments of expression, the windows provided by the leader. So it's not just the female leading the dance as a leader completely, but also just this idea of the dance is a conversation, whether you're a leader or a follower. And as a conversation, it's not just about listening to the other person, but it's also about expressing your own opinion, and then that person listening to you.
But that segues into one of the topics I have been like hitting on and speaking with my friends a lot. And sometimes they'll ask me, why aren't you going out to dance so much, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, sometimes the leads are so rough, or like you said, one-sided. And it just gets to a point where I don't want to spend, like, 70% of my night, being manhandled, and then as I was speaking about this with one of my friends who's actually who had been trained in New York, actually, and he's living in Miami. And he said, there's somebody out there who's got, like a blog post on dance whispering, Juan Calderón. And I was like, okay, great. Let me read this. I said, oh my gosh, there's a name for something that I've been trying to, just talk about in longer words. And he just calls it dance whispering. I've seen your podcast also about bad leads, and once you start that way, it's kind of difficult to get out of it, because you're used to just pushing what you've got to say, and not really listening, or not really caring to listen to the other side, that there's another person who's also involved and is sharing with you, and you have to be open to hearing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge in that situation with leads and follows, with that whole problem with feeling like you're being manhandled, or feeling like you're spending your entire night just doing whatever the lead is asking for, not expressing yourself, is uh, kind of a multifaceted response that would be required. So it's, one is that mindset, is to say, yes, I have something to offer, and understand that it's a conversation. Two is an element of technique, where you can't do the things I do in the dance if you don't have a solid foundation. Because I see that a lot. I see a lot of people trying to do the moves I do when they're dancing, and it doesn't look as good, or it clashes with their lead, because they're just doing a move. But my move is based on a lot of technique and a lot of understanding of myself as a dancer, about my body, my equilibrium, my balance, my weight, my pressure, my tension, all of that stuff. And also understanding the exact same elements of my partner. Where's their weight? Where's their tension? Where's their pressure? What's the resistance? Where am I feeling the momentum going? And then creating something from that knowledge. So it's not just knowing a move and practicing a move a million times and saying, ding, I'm going to insert it here. No, it is about assessing the situation and seeing if I can insert it, and maybe attempting to insert it and realizing, no, I did not assess that situation correctly. Time to abort and still continue the flow. And there's a lot of information to process, but what that allows me to do, and that focus on really mastering my fundamentals, not your basic moves, but fundamentals, like your grounding, your technique, your connection, like things that are completely completely relevant to every single dance form, every single type of movement. Mastering those fundamentals, and then bringing that to the dance floor with that mindset of, this is a conversation, with the mindset and the confidence of saying, I do have something I'd like to say. Maybe I'm not going to say it correctly, but I'd like to say it, and I'd like to get better at saying it properly. But the only way I'm going to get better at that is by speaking first. And so learning how to insert that into the dance. And then that other element of the manhandling part is, when you know yourself well enough and you understand movement, not dance specifically, but movement and connection, there's no manhandling. Like I've done this exercise in so many of my workshops where I'm like, all right, come up here, let me, who's big and strong, right? And a bunch of guys would raise their hands. I'm like, okay, who wants to rough me up? And of course everyone's hands go down. Like, no, don't worry, no one's gonna say anything bad. Like, come up here. And so I'd get like some big guy, 6'+", big, hefty, muscular guy. And I'm like, I want you to lead me rough. Just try and throw me around, right? And I would show the difference when I'm not following with full attention to my body and when I am. And when I am present, there's nothing he can do to throw me off. Nothing. Everything that and the manhandling aspect of it turns into a smooth dance, because from the outside I can diffuse his force and it looks like a smooth dance, even though I can feel him trying to do things, but it never lands, so there isn't that is what I'm empowering and teaching people on both sides, not just for the followers but also for the leads, to understand that this is an element of truly leading, right? Is she can't do something, adapt, don't stop, don't give her a dirty look, and don't say, okay, let's start that one again. No, just figure out a new path. It's a detour, right?
Or using more force to try to get that moved out, then
right.
Using more force isn't gonna
right,
work.
Exactly. So that's kind of the approach that I have to the dance, and that's the approach that I've been bringing to this community globally, is showing people that you can do all of these things, you can have a great time, and we're not restricted to the norms of the dance, traditional norms.
Yeah, I've just been kind of, just going off to the side and working with friends who I really, and it's not just because, they're friends or they're my favorites or whatever. It's just, I'm not going to get hurt here, and we can work on things and just have a really good time, and kind of avoiding sometimes the social scene because of things like that. But it sounds like you've worked, a way around this. So it's like you said, diffusing it. That's
there's no dancer out there. I mean, there are dancers that I'm like, I don't want to dance with them because it's not fun. But if they're rough or anything like that, there's no dancer that I can't have a great time with.
Okay. Interesting. You've got to tell us more details about that later.